Welcome to the Avance Podcast. I'm Dan.
And I'm Nick.
And we're at Haggerty Garage and Social tonight. It's a beautiful day to be here. As in, it's dumping rain outside and the showroom is beautiful.
It's a beautiful, Seattle rainy Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about today's guest. I've been looking forward to it for a long time, but we'll get into that a little bit later. How you been? You good?
Great.
You good?
Busy.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. That's wonderful.
Busy in a good way.
I was a little down in the dumps. Nothing bad, but I went out and the monkey's getting worked on, so I took the CRF out yesterday for a little ride. It was a little cold. I mean, not too bad, but it was very nice. Ran into a couple at the cut shop who just picked up brand new BMW GS.
Like a 1250 and a 6 something. Yeah.
And she was really short and had gotten a lowered seat and lowered suspension, and we were just drooling and talking. I'm sitting there I felt really good about my CRF when I pulled up, and then I was like, oh, okay, nicest couple in the world. I wish I could remember their name, but and it sounds like they're planning to really use the bikes. We talked a little bit about the BDR and things like that. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to do any single track on that, but they'll definitely be a little more comfortable on the highway.
No, yeah. I think they're planning to really launch out. But like I said, I started talking about BDR, of course, because I'm a big fan of BDR. Oh my God, I cannot wait to get on the BDR. You sent us a video. We have an internal chat for this year's drive. Dan sent us a video of some people that did it. I think it was last year.
Yeah, it was last year. They did both sections. There's a part 1 and a part 2. It was actually some guys from New Zealand. Yeah. So that's a thing we didn't talk about as much in the last episode that I wish we would have touched on, is that people fly from all over the world to do the BDRs. They're that good. I was talking about a little bit on Avance. It's one of those things where I keep wondering, how do I enroll more people into doing this? Because once you've done one, the views, the places you can go are just so amazing and mind-blowing.
I dream about it. I absolutely dream about it. And we did 2 days, and some of it was highway, and I still dream about it.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it was so much fun.
Yeah, you don't need a lot. You can get a cheap overlander and go do it. That's probably the best part of the BDRs is there's overlanding that gets really hard and then you're in over your head and everything breaks. The BDR isn't really like that. It just a stock TRD anything could do a full BDR run in Washington. Yeah. Really, if you were careful and you could do the entire thing. You might get a few trail stripes, but go buy a cheap 4x4, do the BDRs, or grab an adventure bike and do the BDRs. Trust us. You'll thank us. You'll send us thank you. You'll send us Christmas cards. It's one of the best experiences you'll ever have.
You should be sending us Christmas cards no matter what.
Right?
You listen to us every week. We're in your family. We're in your home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Send us Griot's products.
Todd. Sorry.
Anyway.
Todd's staring at me. It probably means I'll get a Christmas card this year. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's do this week's Carter Automotive Group or Carter Subaru tip of the week. I want to talk about a little something I heard about, and it's out in Europe. You can get it in Europe. They're testing it out first. You can't get it here, and I wish they would, because every time I drive somewhere, I want to drive into the other lane and slam into everyone with their high beams on during the middle of the day, because it seems to be like half the cars do now.
It's a good thing you don't have anger issues.
No, not at all. I need a bigger truck or a tank. Anyway.
No, you don't. You know what a tank would cost to run?
That's true.
I mean, they're running out of them in Ukraine. It's a hybrid tank, yeah. The old electric tanks, everybody loves those. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You think the tank weighs a lot now? Put a bunch of batteries in it, yeah. So
be fine.
Oh, it wasn't the shell that killed them. It was when the batteries exploded that killed them. Yeah, great. That's wonderful, yeah.
No, so they have a new thing called adaptive light technology. And everybody say here's adaptive light technology. They think automatic high beams or they think lights that turn. That have been around for a long, long time. I'm talking about adaptive light technology. That means your lights stay on basically your high beams the whole time, but your cameras now, all of our cameras, if you looked at even your most basic smartphone, are smart enough to know where the windshield is on another car and a car that's approaching you. And what this does is it uses basically a wall of LEDs, and it will dim or change the LEDs or move them so that you have all this light, but it doesn't blind the driver in front of you. And it's super cool because that means you get an ultra-wide, ultra-high, massive floodlight system that doesn't blind the oncoming drivers.
We actually did know something about this.
We did.
This came up many, many years ago from a friend of ours.
Yeah,
it's funny. I don't know if that's out there yet, so I don't really want to talk too much about it. But yes, we do know what this is on motorcycles.
Exactly.
Yes.
A previous guest of ours actually talked about this technology. He was the one pioneering it for racing.
Yes.
Well, guess what? That is now a thing on luxury cars.
I wonder if he knows they stole it.
Yeah, I know. Extreme luxury vehicles in Europe are already testing this.
Yeah.
Everything will take 10 times longer in the U.S. because the DOT, all opinions aside, I guess we'll play Switzerland here. It's the most efficient government you can think of. Anyway.
All government is efficient.
Our government is extremely efficient, and this will be here in no time.
All government is efficient. They are great. So yeah,
the DOT does nothing wrong. They are always on budget and on time.
That pothole did not eat your car.
Anyway, yeah.
You know what? It's funny because my brain goes to what's it going to cost to fix it.
Yeah, that was one of the things they talked about. Did you know the average cost of a replacement LED light on a BMW is $7,000 now?
Yeah.
$7,000.
I don't think people, I mean, especially around here, understand, and we ran into it when we interviewed Brandon about the Audis and the fact that, like, you get an Audi in a hailstorm and it dents the roof, it's totaled.
Yeah.
Because there's so much technology. There's so much tech in those cars that it's just, I mean, and you're going to start seeing people leasing cars because it's too expensive to fix them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We should probably do an episode at some point. I'll have to find an expert because right to repair is a big thing. And we've heard about it in things like phones and computers where, like, if right now I have a laptop and the battery is bad, there's no way to replace it. I mean, it literally requires a heating pad and a pry tool to get the lid open because it's literally glued together. So you literally have to do a heating pad in places to pry the back off of it.
So warm the glue kind of thing?
Yeah, to warm the glue. And it's just a bad battery, but it's like, you could have done this with screws and made it a $20 replacement. And
but the problem is they don't want to because people like you and I will take the screws apart and do it ourselves and then void warranties and.
Yeah, well, also...
How many times did you take apart your PS2 when you weren't supposed to, and then you go get it fixed, and they go, we can't fix it because we know you've been inside. And I'm like, no, you haven't. I mean, the person's like, no, you haven't. That's why you don't put screws on.
Anyway, we've talked about this with cars. They're running into the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a John Deere. We've talked about this a little before. John Deere is a huge right to repair lawsuit.
I think they won. I think the farmers won that.
Farmers won.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still... There's a lot to it.
I don't think that John Deere has conceded, but I think the farmers won. Yeah. So
yeah, cars do the same thing though, where proprietary technology. I mean, think about it. Once this stuff trickles down to a car, BMW is actually a great example because outside of the last 2 years, remember when M3s, like E36s, and all M3s especially, $100,000 car now, inevitably dropped like 10 years. They're worth about $20,000. Literally. It's like an 80% decline in the car, and then they slowly ramp back up as the demand goes up and there's not as many left on the road. But you break a headlight on a $20,000 car, well, that headlight didn't depreciate. It's still $7,000. So if you bumper impact, you hit a curb in a parking lot or something, get too close to a lamp post, a simple slip of an accident, bumper, headlight, marker light, hood, totaled. You do that in a Corolla, you're like, $1,500 later, you're back on the road. Do it on a standard cross track with a standard, even an HID light, $2,000, $3,000 in repairs. But you're right. So we digress a lot in this section.
It's funny because I was in a discussion. I've obviously dove deep into the Outback Wilderness stuff. Yeah, and they're having some issues from stock from Subaru with the windshields are cracking like at 1,400 miles, and people are going out there and Safelite and things like that are trying. I shouldn't say Safelite's doing it, but they're trying to replace them with
glass companies,
aftermarket glass companies with aftermarket glass, and it's screwing up the eyesight because the eyesight needs. And so it's it's an add-on. I mean, it's like I remember when we had a friend of ours from Exotics that replaced his windshield on his S-Class, and it was like $12,000 for a windshield. Like,
it used to be 20 to 30 for average Lamborghini windshield.
Yeah. So you look at, something is worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. But I
think it's funny. There's Jeep has the $200 option for the Corning Gorilla Glass windshield. It was actually really reasonable. I was surprised, and they actually did prove to be quite a bit more chip resistant.
It's ironic. So basically, what you're saying is we could just buy one of those windshields and cut them up and then sell them as phone screens and probably make our money back pretty quickly.
Technically, the iPhone has a Gorilla Glass
I know. So,
screen. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, little digression on our Carter's Automotive Gear tip of the week, but it is cool technology, and that will be great for not blinding everyone around you and still being able to see. It's nice to see that. I'm sure it will trickle down. I would honestly give it probably 5 to 10 years before the U.S. widely adopts it in the luxury cars, and probably about 15 where it's standard. But it's coming.
The Outback's the first one I had where I can keep my high beams on, and it turns it off. I like that. It's a neat feature.
The Raptor has it, but it's like a strobe light. It works terribly. It's just like, that's
it's weird.
Bing. It's off. It's awful. Okay. Yeah. Nice. There's everything with that thing is a little slow, but it gets there.
Excellent. Well, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to this week's guest.
And our guest today is Tim Cruikshank. Did I say your last name right?
Yeah, that's close enough.
Close enough?
Yeah, that's close enough. Don't worry, he can't kill you or anything.
No,
you're fine. Yeah,
that's all good.
Yeah. welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
If you don't know that name, he is the owner and CEO of BoneFrog Coffee here in the Pacific Northwest.
And wine.
Yeah. That's
Cellars.
correct.
BoneFrog Cellars, correct?
BoneFrog Cellars.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's funny. So we've had this set up for probably a month now.
Yep.
And we were interviewing Benjamin Peterson last 2 weeks ago.
Indy Lights driver.
And I'm looking at these photos as he sends us, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, what's that name on the back of your car? He goes, oh, this is awesome coffee company. You should. And he goes to tell me, like a good race car driver, going to give me the whole spiel. And I'm like, no, it's okay. I know who he is. We're going to be interviewing him on the show. So kind of a small world.
Yeah, Benjamin's great.
He's a really neat guy. I mean, you talk about something that's going to go really far.
So how did you make the connection with Benjamin? Like, how did that even come about?
Benjamin went to school with my kids.
Oh,
they all went to Eastside Catholic together.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was sponsored, and it was good. He was about to give me the full rundown on what it is and what BoneFrog, and I'm like, it's okay. I know. I was just curious in the fact that it's such a small world, so that's really neat.
He's an amazing young man. Just unreal. His work ethic, his grit. Tough kid, hard racer. Amazing.
He's gonna go really far.
Yeah,
he'll be in Indy. I mean, he's obviously Indy 2 right now, but he's gonna be up there, setting records with the best of them. So
he's going places, and he's a great brand ambassador for us because he really epitomizes everything that we stand for in the SEAL teams. That tough-minded, hard-working mentalities. He's amazing.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, I want to kind of get into the background. Speaking of Navy SEALs
and BoneFrog,
Yep.
Give us a little bit of background on you, on where you came from, and how you got to this point with BoneFrog.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up right here in Washington, down in Federal Way, and joined the Navy in 1990, a few years after high school. But I joined the Navy to be a SEAL, and I went through boot camp and A school, and then went straight to BUD/S.
A lot of people join the Navy to be a SEAL.
Stuff.
Not a lot of people become a SEAL, but yeah.
The attrition rate's pretty high, and I tell this story. When I joined the Navy, I didn't tell my parents, and my dad was a Marine, and I told him, at dinner, I said, "Hey, pass the potatoes. I joined the Navy," and
well, now you're not getting the potatoes.
I was like, all the silverware drops, and everybody's looking at me like, "What the heck?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm going to be a SEAL."
Are you?
Yeah. My mom was like, that's like one of the most difficult things that there is to do. I go, yeah, I'm going to do it.
Beyond the movie Navy SEALs, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not at all like that.
No.
Yeah. And then my dad, on the other, being a Marine, he's like, Navy, I guess it's something, right?
Good enough.
So, he
couldn't become a Marine SEAL.
He didn't realize until he came to my graduation, and he's like, "Hey, that's something." That was a good accomplishment. So
that, I mean, it's obviously, from the civilian world, what we know about that is probably a tenth of what it really is. And I mean, the movies don't pitch it like it is, but like you said, the attrition rate is pretty high, and you got to be in shape mentally, physically, emotionally.
Oh, come on. You just hold your breath and call it a day.
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly. Just sit there. He'll kill us both.
I'm sweating thinking about the work.
I know.
I'm like, no
I'm
way.
retired now.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are good.
No, I can't imagine doing anything so hard in my entire life. I'm extremely impressed. Anybody who gets through that, even washouts, I'm just like, you got farther than I did because you started.
Mm-hmm.
So BoneFrog itself, though, is a pretty young company. You guys haven't been around that long, as far as I can tell, relatively.
Yeah, really, we've been around for about a little over a year and a half.
Yeah,
so we're pretty new.
Growing pretty quick.
We are.
Yeah.
Which is a good problem to have.
It is a great problem.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, I know some of your financial team, so you're. No. So, actually, I was introduced to you by a good. Well, he's family, Peter Vermillion, and then my father, Mark Bergeron.
Yes.
But yeah, Uncle Peter, as we call him.
Yes.
But it was. They came to us and they go, would you like to have him on the podcast? I'm like, absolutely, I want to talk to this guy because I love the coffee and I love what you're doing. But
I appreciate that.
So I guess let's link this up in the fact of what the word BoneFrog means and coming from SEALs, and then how you went from becoming a Navy SEAL to creating this company.
Yeah, so the BoneFrog itself, and what I really want people to understand, my goal is to have all of America see the BoneFrog and know what it stands for. So a little bit of a backstory on it. Back in World War II, SEALs were called the Underwater Demolition Teams, the UDTs. They were called the Frogmen of the Navy.
Yep.
These were the guys that went in and cleared the beaches in the South Pacific and Normandy Beach and that kind of stuff. These were tough guys. And it wasn't until, Vietnam, that the Vietnam era, when President Kennedy commissioned the SEAL teams, SEAL Team 1 and SEAL Team 2 in 1962. And those guys went into Vietnam and they created this reputation. They were called the Men with Green Faces, and they were the ones that snuck up on you in the middle of the night. And,
yes.
Yeah, the guy popping out of the water that we all see.
Yeah. And so
they hug you. Yeah.
The BoneFrog itself was actually drawn by a friend of mine, Keith Kimura. We were SEAL corpsmen, medics together, and Keith drew the original BoneFrog, and when he passed away, it became this kind of iconic symbol in the SEAL teams that represented those that sacrificed their lives for our country and our freedom and our American way of life. I took Keith's drawing and I modified it a little bit, and I put that trident there in the pelvis.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah. Okay.
Pretty cool.
And I changed the head a little bit to look more like a Navy anchor. I just modified it to kind of honor Keith, but it keeps the same meaning of sacrifice. And I put honor the fallen at the bottom of the bag. The company itself, it started when I retired. I retired out of a joint command at Fort Bragg. And Navy retirements are very traditional. They're very, dress uniforms, white gloves, swords, the whole thing. And I remember I was standing up there at the podium giving my speech, and I'm looking out at everybody in the audience, for my 25-year career. And I'm looking at guys in the eyes, and all these memories are coming back. At that point, we'd been at war for 16 years. And, a lot of other conflicts throughout that time. And I'm remembering all this stuff. And I went back to the hotel room. We were getting ready to pack up and leave. And I told my wife, I go, I have an idea. I have an idea that I want to honor these guys that died and talk about the amazing things that they did. And I think that the books and the movies are great, but they don't tell the whole story. They don't meet the mark, I don't think. And
those people that do the movies haven't experienced it. Even if you have people that are advising on those, it's not. I mean, our idea, obviously, it's pop culture right now. Of the G.I. Joe and G.I. Jane and the Navy SEALs. It's not what's really happening. You're seeing things that we're not supposed to see. That's sort of your job.
Yeah, there's a lot more to the stories than what you're seeing in the books and the movies, and I wanted to be able to talk about them. These guys were my brothers, and we have a saying. Long live the brotherhood, and unless you've lived it, you don't really know what that means. It's such a close-knit fraternity of just a few guys that have been to hell and back really together. And when you lose somebody like that, you're basically losing a part of yourself.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. And so when I was retiring and leaving the community, it struck me that I needed to talk about them, to tell their stories so their sacrifices weren't in vain, that people remember that. And they see that BoneFrog image as something that, they see it on your shirt or your hat, or they're like, right on, man. That's cool, because you're representing something that is so purely American that, those guys are willing to raise their hand and say, hey, I will give my life for you and for our country and our American way of life. And that's what it's all about. And I want people to know that. I want them to see that and be part of something. And every time somebody buys something, I thank them for their support and I welcome them to the team. And I think that's important. I want every American to come and be part of what we're doing, to be part of something greater than yourself. And the other part of it is I wanted to give back. And so with the sale of each product, I give back to the foundations to support those families and, the wives and the kids that are left behind, because that sacrifice continues, not just with the service member's death, but for their sacrifice as well.
Yeah.
It's important for that legacy to live on and people to understand, in the civilian life, what actually goes on. I think that's a wonderful symbol. And the fact that, not only do you know the person that created that it didn't just become a symbol for your company, it is a symbol for the Navy SEALs. Like it's recognized throughout all of your brotherhood, correct? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how did the wine side of this come into play?
So
BoneFrog cellars.
Yeah, so I created coffee and wine for a reason, that they are conversation pieces, right?
Yeah.
So
It's made for coffee. Let's grab a glass of wine. Yeah.
Exactly. So, if we're going to get together for a business meeting where, hey, let's grab a cup of coffee, we'll sit down and we'll talk. And it's the same thing with the wine. And I find that when we go to dinners and things like that, I'll just take a bottle of the BoneFrog wine and I'll walk in, put it right in the middle of the table and walk away. And it's awesome because everybody just stops. They're like, oh,
look at the label.
What the heck is that? And they'll grab it, they look at the front, and then they turn it over and the story's on the back. Everything is on the back, the name of the company, everything. The front is just the BoneFrog in honor of the fallen. And it starts a conversation, and that's all I want. And that's, why I go on podcasts and I do all these things, because I want to tell the story. And I'm grateful that you guys have given me the opportunity to do that.
Well, glad to have you.
Grateful to have you. So obviously, were you the simplistic? But were you a fan of coffee and wine? Is that why you decided to go in that direction, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not that all of us aren't, but
right. Yeah. That, and we live here in Washington, which is
Coffee and wine.
Coffee and wine. It's the home of both of those.
Coffee here? I didn't know.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is if you're going to make coffee and wine in this state, you've got to do it at a very high level.
Yeah.
We're known for that. And so if you're going to do those things, you got to be really good at it. And so it's a little stressful, but it's good because it makes you better, right?
Yeah.
Did you know a lot about that when you went into this? Like
Nothing.
Okay.
Zero.
So you're one of those
We
that
can't
just
relate.
goes, I'll learn it. Yeah. That's Dan didn't know anything about podcasting, and that's how we got where we are. So, yeah.
Well, I think in our lives, you got to push ourselves outside your comfort zone, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we can stay in our little cocoons and we can do all these things that we know, but we're not going to grow as human beings unless we push ourselves.
Sure. And that's important, obviously. There's a lot of people that need to be pushed.
A lot of resources around here.
Where or off of what, I won't say, but they need to be pushed. Yeah.
Yes, I'm with you.
So where are you sourcing your coffee?
So the coffee, can I tell the story about it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
please.
super cool. So I say by the grace of God, we were introduced to and ran into Dave Stewart. Dave Stewart was the original owner of Seattle's Best Coffee.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was like, why do I know that name? And
Yeah, so this is one of the iconic guys that created the entire world's coffee craze, him and another guy, Howard Schultz.
Yeah.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. And so Dave has been, and in special operations, you can't know everything, but you can surround yourself with subject matter experts, people that know more than you and make you look good. I'm all about that. So Dave Stewart has
That's you,
been,
Dan. You make me look good.
Yeah.
It's tough, but yeah, he does a good job.
Good job, Dave.
Yeah, good job, Dan.
So
Anyway.
Yeah.
So Dave Stewart loved what we were doing. He's a super patriotic guy and loved the messaging and loved everything about it. And he goes, hey, I will help you out. I will mentor you. I will teach you. I will help create your blends. I will do all these things because I believe in what you're doing. I think this is important. And so I have been learning and doing all this with one of the most iconic coffee makers in the world. And he makes great coffee. He's been doing this for over 50 years. And
So he's got a little bit of experience.
yeah.
Okay.
Now, on the other side with sourcing coffee, it's a kind of a cool story. So when he was bought out by Howard Schultz back in 2013, his brother Jimmy Stewart, I love it. So Jimmy,
I didn't know that. Okay.
Jimmy married a Colombian woman, and she owns and operates a bunch of farms in Central and South America. And it's a super cool story that, in a very male-dominated society down there, she is thriving in this coffee industry and growing beans. And so Dave sources from his brother and sister-in-law the most high-quality beans, direct trade, no middleman. You get the best beans at the best price, and it's
quality control is pretty easy if you can sit at the dinner table and go, "Hey, how we doing?"
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So it's a great relationship.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did you come out that same? I mean, did you just happen to find like the person that's making the best wine? And,
I was going to ask
I was
that
like,
next.
Did that happen too?
It kind of did.
Okay.
And so my winemaker was just the president of the Washington Wine Association.
Oh,
Just.
okay. Again, doesn't know anything. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again,
Grace.
grateful to be associated with them. John Bookwalter is a second-generation winemaker. We source our grapes from some of the oldest vines in the state. And the cool thing about this, the learning that has taken place in winemaking, wine is a chemistry experiment that is blended with art and imagination to create something so amazing. You don't even, like, the average person, I think, doesn't even realize what goes into making a good bottle of wine. So my learning curve on wine has been through the roof. And the similarities between how you grow a coffee bean and a grape is very similar, with the amount of water or shade, the mineral content, all those things. And the coolest thing about grapes that they taught me was that with vines, you want to feed them small amounts of water. And I said, why? And he's like, you want the roots to struggle. When the vines and the roots struggle, they create the best grape and the best wine. And I think it's a good analogy, or a good reflection on our lives in general. I think with the struggle comes
overcoming
strength through
adversity.
Yeah.
And growth.
Right? Yeah.
Don't take the easy route. And it's the same way with wine and making a really good quality wine. Embrace the struggle. So I thought that was super cool.
Embrace the struggle, Dan.
Yeah.
Start struggling more. Start struggling.
We have excellent wine resources here. We've actually had Madeline Paquette on the show before from Wine Folly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's funny how small the world is when it comes to automotive podcasts and everything else in Washington.
Yeah.
Wine, coffee.
Well, Dan and I used to drink a lot of wine, so there was that too.
Yeah. I've slowed down.
So yeah. It still builds up though at the house now. So that's
I know. Yeah, I have
drink
bottles
more,
and bottles and bottles. I'm like, so it's a Christmas gift.
I mean, back to our original topic. How did you get involved in sponsoring a race team? Like, how did that come about?
Your kids went to school
together, but I mean, how did that come about? Like, afterwards?
I think there was joint interest in that. How do I explain it? So, as a brand ambassador for us and being associated with the foundations that I'm associated with, so the Navy SEAL Foundation particularly, I think it's good for both of us, him advertising our company and to have us on his car and the Navy SEAL Foundation and that kind of stuff. It was kind of a partnership made in heaven. I think it was mutually beneficial, and, everything that Benjamin does is amazing. I love that guy, and he's going to go do great things. And he wanted to be a part of what we were doing, and likewise.
Just met up in heaven.
Yeah.
So I think that's wonderful.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
really amazing.
I've been looking since we did that episode with Benjamin. I've actually been looking, like, going through Indy and Formula One, looking at it. It's like coffee is the new cigarettes when it comes to race car sponsorships.
It's going to kill you less than cigarettes.
It'll kill you less. Yeah.
Marlboro looked good on a car.
It looked really good on the cars.
And at the end of the day,
But I'm seeing more and more of it because, Black Rifle obviously is now big into automotive sponsorships. Yep. They're on everything now.
They are.
And there's obvious parallels here. But it seems like a pretty different product overall, actually, or at least different story.
Speaking of doing things and coming from the military and doing good things, have you run into the guys from Combat Flip Flops in Issaquah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And a Griff.
Yeah. So we've had him on the show, and Chewy. Yeah. So, it's
He's
like
awesome. Love that guy.
Some of the best footwear I can wear. So I love those guys.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of kind of giving back, and especially recognizing the fallen and giving back to the world that people may not know happened.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'm all about supporting, other veteran businesses, and, he's doing great things, and super proud of him and all the stuff that he's doing as well.
So where's BoneFrog going? What's the next? Not to reveal your trade secrets here, but obviously they can. We're going to give out all the information where people can find all of this to get this wonderful coffee, because we have our own. I'm not giving it up. So yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. So yeah.
So we are growing just at a rapid pace, and so we're trying to keep up with that. We're revamping the website right now as we speak to get it more functional and easier to use and all that kind of stuff. We're looking at growing to a brick and mortar store to have fulfillment in the back and have some retail in the front.
Excellent.
So if anybody who's listening knows of a place out there, let me know.
Yeah. You're actually looking for a place.
We're looking for a place, and everything here is very expensive. And so,
There's no good coffee shops in Snoqualmie Ridge. I'll tell you right now. There's one in downtown Snoqualmie, a little drive-through, and then there's Huckstodder in North Bend, but there's not a single coffee stand in
get on that,
Snoqualmie
Peter.
Ridge.
Yep.
Peter.
Yeah,
Peter. So
And I would there's 2 Starbucks. There's 3 Starbucks, and they don't even count.
Yeah.
So I don't count Starbucks as good coffee shops anymore.
Yeah. So
Best donuts in the land. It needs coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. So we're growing really quick, and we're looking for new space so we can expand and grow even bigger. And this year we've got a lot of stuff on our plate, and we are excited about the opportunities that we have. I was just talking earlier about we're getting involved with the National Veterans Museum and Memorial in Ohio, and they're going to feature our products in their gift store and their online store. And it's awesome to do that. And we've been invited out to Sturgis. And
that's fun.
We're
going to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're big bike guys, so yeah.
Yeah, last year I had to turn it down because we just weren't big enough. And I couldn't make that promise to them that we could go out there and fulfill it. But now we're big enough, and
you're going to be so embraced by that community. Many of them being veterans, but let alone supporting veteran causes.
Those are our people.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
Those are our people. And so excited to go out and see them. And I've got a bunch of my buddies, SEALs that are bikers. They're like, hey, man, we'll go up there and help you out and hang out. And, so that's 10 days of pure bliss.
Debauchery. Let's just say it's 10 days of debauchery.
Yeah, it is.
But you'll have good coffee to keep you awake while doing it. So that's the important thing.
Yes.
And maybe a little good wine at night.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know. I can supply my fellow patriots with some good coffee and wine. So, that kind of stuff. We're associated in selling to some NHL teams and looking at a bunch of other opportunities. So it's super cool to be doing this. To be getting our messaging out there to everybody. And, the more people that I can tell about what we're doing, the more we can give back and keep growing. So it's awesome.
Well, obviously the marketing's working. I mean, not only on the Indy cars, but, through people we know. I mean, it's such an interesting, like Dan said before, such a short connection between everybody.
I know. We know some pretty cool people.
I don't know why they hang out with me. I know why they hang out with you, but at the end of the day, so.
We have fun.
Where
We're
are you guys based out of right now? I mean, obviously brick and mortar wise.
So we do our fulfillment out of a shop in Issaquah.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay, then you definitely know the combat guys. Okay. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Small world again.
Yes, that's
just down the hill from all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the winery's down in Richland.
Okay. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Okay. And then are you guys actually going down there with the winery and mixing and blending all your stuff, or is somebody doing that for you and then you're...
So the way that works is we go down and we sit and we talk about the blends that we want to make, or the varietals, and we'll do wine tasting and talk about different flavor profiles and things like that. And the coolest thing about this, like when we made our Chardonnay, we were trying a bunch of wines from France and going through the different flavor profiles and talking about it and talking about the things that we liked. And then we put it all together and they made it. And it was cool when it first came out. We're all standing around in the winery, back with all the barrels, and the sommeliers are tasting, and everybody's all excited. And I'm like, oh, this is so great. And I told the winemaker, oh, you nailed it. This is exactly what we wanted. And just deadpan, flat. He goes, that's what you asked for. It's just unbelievable, mind-blowing that they can create something like that.
You want it? I gave it to you. Why are you surprised?
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy.
You come from a military background. That's not the first time you run to somebody like that. I asked you to do something. You did it. Okay, great.
Yeah, but this is hard to do.
I'm sure.
It's just unbelievable. So it's been really fun, and the learning curve has been high, but it's exciting. It's one of these businesses that you want to be part of, and you wake up in the morning and, some people have jobs where they keep hitting the snooze button. They don't want to get up. I don't do that. I'm excited. I'm passionate about what I do and excited about telling people about it and having them be part of our team and kind of sharing in all this. It's really
I'd be
fun.
more excited about mornings if I had a reason to get up, like good coffee. I mean, that's,
Well, you got the coffee now.
Yeah, I do.
Step one.
I do. Yeah.
You need more caffeine, Nick. That's going to go
That's
great.
the last thing my ADHD needs, but, I'd be fine. So, yeah.
Well, I can't wait to try it tomorrow because I'm going to brew it up in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
So probably not tonight.
Yeah.
I actually have coffee with me because I have to work late. But yeah.
But you're drinking oat milk, so it's good for you.
I am drinking
Yeah, that's
oat milk.
right. That's the way to do it. Yeah.
I like it.
It's good. I think it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny though how much you were saying how much wine and coffee are science, because until I met Madeline, really, who I could be like, oh, I want something that tastes like this, and it's that the way they just interpret what you're saying into what makes sense. There's an art to that in itself. Because a lot of people, like 99% of us, can't say, I want my wine to taste this way. We're going to say, I want it juicy, or I want it softer on the palate, or I want less tannin. And even though nobody knows what that actually means, they say it.
I want it in a jug. I want it in a box.
Right.
No.
And it takes a sommelier to be like, okay, I understand what you're describing and the way you're saying it, and I know what you want.
Yep.
It's a whole lot different than actually being like, I would like a 30% blend of this grape from this region. And they're like, yes, I know these grapes from this region taste like that. And if you mix them with these grapes from this region, they'll taste like this. And
my palate's never been there. Even
do
after Madeline, like people will be like, you'll drink it and be like, oh, do you taste the orange feel? And I'm like, no, I taste wine. Like I taste grapes.
Why is there orange in my
and
wine?
alcohol.
No, that's not what that means.
I know. So I asked that. I'm like, okay, so you taste orange peels.
Yeah.
But I taste something totally different. And they said, yeah, everybody's palate is different. How you perceive things. What I perceive as blackberry, you perceive as dark plum or something.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So when you're sitting down, and that's the amazing part, when you're sitting down with the winemaker trying to create something and you're both supposed to be saying the same thing, it's hard to create something from
nothing. Yeah.
From nothing. It's difficult.
Yeah, when I've done the tastings where I helped with a winemaking session several years ago, and we all tasted the same thing, and they said, tell us what you taste. Mm-hmm. And they didn't expect us to have like the same answer. There wasn't a perception thing like we expect you to taste this, and it was like, tell me what you taste, therefore I can make your flavor profile. And then they created a wine, a blend out of what we liked, and sure enough, it was spot on. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm not that talented. So.
Yeah.
Does that same process go into choosing beans as far as how to roast them, when to roast them, things like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So beans, it's interesting that the analogy I use is you can take a filet mignon and a top sirloin and burn the crap out of them, and they'll both taste the same, right? But if you roast them or cook them perfectly, the flavor profile will come out of that filet mignon versus the top sirloin.
Right.
It's the same way with coffee beans. So there are some companies that will burn them consistently and have a very consistent
burnt flavor
or
Duncan.
taste.
I mean, oh, sorry. No.
And it's more difficult to roast them more specifically to bring out the flavor profiles. And that's why I like our light roast so much, because Dave roasts our coffee in a Northern European style, and it brings out the flavor profile. Just like in a wine, it brings out the flavor profile of the beans. And if you have a bad quality bean, that will come out as well. And so the bean quality has to be really high, and it has to be roasted just perfectly to bring this out. And the coffee ends up being, rich and bold and very smooth without any acidic aftertaste, that kind of feeling that gives you indigestion and stuff like that. So I love his coffee, and I love the way he roasts it. It's amazing.
So you went from basically high school to Navy, and then what did you do after Navy? Did you jump straight into this? Or were you medical?
Well, he had his epiphany while he was resigning from the Navy to do this. So
yeah. So while I was in the Navy, I got 3 degrees. I got 2 bachelor's and a master's degree.
Underachiever.
Yeah, I know, right? Why don't you do something with your life?
Well, the Navy paid for it, so you take advantage of it, right? So I ended up being what's called a Mustang. So I was prior enlisted, and then I got commissioned and became an officer. I ended up retiring as a lieutenant commander, which was a pretty cool thing. And so I got my degree in medicine as a PA, as a physician assistant. My background, because I was a corpsman, was all in trauma medicine. And so continued doing that. I ended up becoming the Naval Undersea Medicine Liaison to NATO for undersea medicine, hyperbaric stuff.
Oh, yeah, okay. Got it, yeah.
That sounds like a simple topic, right? Undersea medicine to NATO. I mean, come on. No.
Yeah, so
don't come up too fast.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so it was pretty cool. And so my whole background and everything I know is medicine and trauma and that kind of stuff. So
I bet that came in handy when being a SEAL.
It's pretty good.
How long? Okay, so I've got some Navy SEAL questions. How long did it take when you enlisted to become a Navy SEAL? Because you have to be an officer to go to SEAL school, correct?
No, you don't.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So I was an E3 when I went through.
Okay.
And junior enlisted. So boot camp was 12 weeks. A school was, I don't know, I can't remember. It was so long ago. It was 30 years ago. It was like another 12 weeks. And then Buds is...
so you go to Buds right afterwards. You don't...
I did.
Okay.
Not everybody does. So I had orders to go directly there, and they run you through all these tests, and they keep doing it. And it's not just once.
They want to see if you really want to do this. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. And so get to Buds, and once you make it through Buds, you still have to go to jump school. And for me, I had to go through 18 Delta's SOCM Special Operations Combat Medic School. Then you get to your team, and at the time, they would put your Trident in a glass display box on the quarterdeck, and you had to do what was called STT, so your advanced training. So months and months of training through that, and then you go in front of a board. And it was all the senior guys at the team. My first team was SEAL Team 8, and they sit at a big table like we're sitting at here in their dress uniforms with all their
wall of medals,
sitting up on
over their shoulder,
here's all these combat veterans, and I'm a new guy, and they start hammering you with questions, and it covers every topic, and they have every weapon in the command in a cardboard box taken apart, and so while they're firing questions at you, you're having to put all the weapons together, and then they'll have you shift over and set up a SATCOM communication, and then do a dive plan with dive physics on the whiteboard. And then, they just keep
while
going.
asking questions to you.
While they're asking questions. And there's a representative from each, it could be from medical, from the armory, from operations, from, you name it. And they're all firing questions at you, and you're doing all this stuff, and it goes on for hours and hours and hours. And then they ask you to step outside. And they decide whether they're going to give you your Trident or not after all that. And that's
got to be stressful. I mean, you talk about sweating during that meeting, let alone sitting outside, making wondering if you passed.
Yeah.
If they want to have you be a part of the Brotherhood, as you said.
Yeah. So you go through all that stuff, and once you get your Trident, then they put you in a platoon, and it's interesting. It's a little bit like an NFL draft, and sometimes, because the platoons are watching as you're going through advanced training, and they're looking for specific things that they need. So they'll grab certain guys to put in certain platoons that have skills that platoon needs. Then off you go.
That's incredible. Yeah. Movies are wrong. You don't graduate Buds and then get your Trident.
No.
So, yeah. So.
No.
Was that always a dream of yours? Since you were little, that you knew you were going to be a Navy SEAL, or was that something you came up to after coming out of high school? And
I had heard about it growing up, and
because you grew up in a military family, obviously.
I grew up, and I had heard about it. One of my uncles had told me he was in Vietnam and talked about the SEALs in Vietnam, and I had read some stuff. And when I went down to talk to the recruiter, I was like, that's what I want to do. That, I wanted to push myself, and each guy's got his own story of why they want to do it. But I think most young guys want to push themselves and prove themselves, a little bit of chip on your shoulder to see what you got. And that was the hardest thing I could think of doing. And
yeah,
so
pretty much.
That's impressive. It's absolutely impressive.
Went and did it.
And it's obviously led to something really impressive that's, going to change the world, even though it's, a brand new thing. And, getting out there and getting the story. And, Dan and I are very big about supporting this type of causes, and that's why I really wanted to have you on. Even though my father goes, you should have him on. I said, that's not hard. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah.
And we got free coffee. So,
and we got a bag of coffee. I would have done without the coffee.
This month's bonus.
Exactly.
Got to try the coffee.
I was going for
I've tried the coffee. Yeah.
Coffee.
Yeah. So, yeah. Excellent.
All right. Well, where can we pick up your coffee and your wine specifically? Which retailers are hosting your stuff? I want to go grab some.
Well, we sell mostly online. Okay. And so if you go to our website at BoneFrog-coffee.com, BoneFrog-coffee.com, you can order directly online. We will ship it. It's actually roasted to order. So when you get your coffee shipped to you within a day or two, it was roasted.
Smells so good.
Yeah. That was roasted today.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That's why it probably smells so really good.
Today.
Okay.
And so it's super fresh. And for the wine, it's BoneFrogCellars.com. BoneFrogCellars.com.
No dash, just BoneFrog
Nope.
Cellars. Okay.
Yep.
I'll have both links posted on the podcast notes. So listeners, if you're looking, expand the little paragraph where you're at, and you will see those links. You can get your stuff.
Yeah.
How do you get the wine? You ship the wine. And
Ship the wine. The wine gets shipped from Richland.
From Richland. Okay.
Yeah, and it's professionally packed and the whole thing. You know, we don't keep it on this side of the mountain. So
can we pick it up in Richland for over there? Do you have a shop?
You could pick it up there, or we also have it up in Woodinville at John Bookwalter's tasting room. You can get it there as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in case you haven't gotten this from our conversation, this company is obviously veteran-owned and veteran-operated, which is important. I think it's important to support these causes. So I really thank you for taking the time to come in and doing this. And I know you guys are busy, and life is good, and I wish you nothing but success. So
Thank you so much for having me. And
hopefully we can contribute to it.
I just appreciate, being given a platform to talk about what we're doing and kind of share the messaging with everybody. So
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. For this episode of Rain City, I'm sorry. Oops, I did it. That was the first time I've done
That's the first time you've done it. I'll leave it in because it's funny.
That's funny. Okay. For this episode of the Avance podcast, I'm Nick.
I'm Dan, and don't just get there. Enjoy the drive.